I understand you're jealous of a young, cute girl like me, but you should stop. It's unsightly. Excuse me? You're panicking because you're afraid I'll take the boss from you, right? But I guess that's to be expected from an incompetent woman like you, May. What are you talking about? If I get serious, it would be easy to take the boss away from you. I think I could do your job as well as you do. So, maybe I'll just take the boss from you. Susan looked at me with a confident expression, clearly looking down on me. Welcome back. Weren't you supposed to be late tonight? Oh, I have something to talk about. Seeing John looking away nervously, I had a sense of what he wanted to say. Whenever he acted like this, it was usually because he had something negative to say. What is it you want to talk about? I remained calm while John couldn't hide his anxious expression. Finally, he seemed to gather his courage and shouted. I got the 21-year-old part-timer pregnant. I'm sorry, but I want a divorce. John fell to his knees. At that moment, my mind went blank. Pregnant, part-timer, divorce. John's words echoed in my head. Soon, anger started to bubble up. How could he do this to me, after all the support I've given him both at home and at work? What right did he have to humiliate me like this? Hearing John's words, something snapped inside me. I decided I would no longer endure anything for John's or the company's sake. Fine, I'll quit my job too. John looked up at me with wide eyes, shocked. My name is May. I'm a 34-year-old working wife. My husband, John, is 5 years older. We met through a business deal at my previous job and got married after 2 years of dating. John always had the goal of starting his own company. When he did, I quit my job to work at his company. In the beginning, it was just the two of us, with John handling sales and me managing the office and various administrative tasks. It was tough, but I wanted to support John's dream, so I didn't mind. Now, John's company has started to gain traction, and we finally hired some employees. It might sound like a smooth career journey. However, I have a few concerns. John has the perfect personality for sales. He's sociable and can easily strike up conversations with strangers. He's well-read, keeping up with news and articles, even those unrelated to our industry. As a result, he has a wide network. As someone who's shy, I admired John's ability to talk to different people without hesitation. But there were also problems. John is extremely vain. He needed everyone to think well of him, so he often told small lies that were easy to catch. He would eagerly tell contradictory stories that anyone paying attention could spot. He often made spontaneous claims, leading to inconsistencies. I felt embarrassed in those situations. He would suddenly talk about developing new products or opening new branches, things that weren't planned at all, making me feel like my face was on fire. Ultimately, John just wanted to be admired by others. Unbeknownst to him, I had been covering for his shortcomings. While John was out doing sales, I would align the details of meetings over the phone or email and even visit companies in person to apologize when John had upset a contact. Ideally, John should have apologized to himself, but when people didn't want to see him, I had to step in. It was exhausting to deal with his unnecessary demands. Another problem with John was his sudden outbursts of anger at unexpected times. I called these landmines. Even mundane topics could set him off, leaving me confused about why he was so angry. Often I had trouble understanding why, as it was not something that would make a normal person particularly angry. It wasn't just me. John often lashed out at employees, so I had to manage their morale as well. Despite his sociable nature, John lacked many qualities as a person. Honestly, I had considered divorce. I often thought how much easier my life would be without him. But divorcing him would mean leaving the company too. Then, the employees would have to deal with John's erratic behavior. I was the only one who could keep him in check. It felt like a matter of pride that I didn't divorce him. One day, a new part-timer joined us. John and I usually decided on new hires together. John immediately liked this part-timer and decided to hire her. During the morning meeting, the new part-timer introduced herself. "Hi, I'm Susan. Nice to meet you." Susan greeted them, unnecessarily stretching the end of her sentence. Susan, a 21-year-old college student, had applied to gain administrative experience for her future job hunt. "However, I'm thinking of having her work as my personal assistant. She'll mostly be out with me, so please support her. Being a personal assistant sounds cool." "Got it," she replied, stretching her words unnecessarily. Hearing Susan's response, I sighed quietly so no one could hear. When John decided to hire Susan, I had concerns about assigning her to a different role than she applied for, but John wouldn't budge. John, always wanting to show off, probably just wanted to flaunt having a young, cute assistant. It wasn't about her abilities but about the status of being a CEO with an assistant. Susan applied to gain administrative experience. Having her go out with you is a sales job, not administrative work. Shouldn't she start with admin tasks? No, she's suited for sales. If I mentor her, she'll become a great salesperson. What makes you think that? This is her first job, and she has no experience that could be useful in sales. My intuition tells me. My gut is never wrong. She will be my assistant. But the CEO, which is me. It's not for you to argue, May. I tried to persist, but John raised his voice, becoming more stubborn. I believed that being a personal assistant wasn't an easy job for anyone. It required anticipation, attention to detail, and the ability to think ahead. Especially for someone like John, who acted on intuition, a personal assistant needed these skills even more. I couldn't see Susan fitting this role at all. Hey, think more seriously about this. Hiring someone is a big deal for the company. I don't need you to tell me that. I decided it, the CEO. This is final. John pounded the table and yelled at me with an intimidating attitude. When John got like this, he wouldn't back down until the other person gave in. No matter how logical my arguments were, they wouldn't reach him. I gave up and decided to do as John said. Susan started accompanying John on his outings. She seemed aware of how much the CEO favored her, and her attitude began to change. CEO, I need to check today's schedule. She would approach John and touch his arm or chest as she spoke. To outsiders, their relationship might not look strictly professional. Today's schedule is pretty tight. Let's get going. Oh, your tie is crooked. Let me fix it for you. Susan adjusted John's tie, and he didn't seem to mind her physical proximity. This behavior was setting a bad example for the other employees, so I decided to talk to both John and Susan separately. I really hate to bring this up, but you need to show more restraint. You're being too familiar with Susan. No, that's not true. I'm not giving her special treatment. Really? She's awfully touchy. The other employees might be disappointed with your unprofessional behavior. Are you jealous? I don't see her that way. Since we work together closely, it's natural for us to be close. To me, it seemed like John was making excuses. I knew pressing further would be futile. I sighed deeply. Just be mindful of how you interact with Susan. We can't keep explaining misunderstandings to everyone. John simply said, "Got it," and walked away. Susan, do you know why I called you in? What? Did I do something wrong? Susan responded while staring at her perfectly manicured nails, clearly uninterested in what I had to say. Most people would feel nervous or anxious being called by a superior, but she didn't show any such emotions. Suppressing my anger, I spoke to Susan firmly. I saw you getting too close to the CEO earlier. I hate to say this, but you need to maintain professionalism during work. What do you mean? I was just discussing work with him. It's unfair to accuse me when I'm doing my job properly. Susan pretended to wipe away tears, but her eyes remained dry. John might have been fooled by her act, but it wouldn't work on me. I wasn't sure if Susan noticed my cold stare, but she kept up her fake crying. In that case, please refrain from behavior that could be misunderstood. Even if you're just a part-timer, it doesn't matter to people outside the company. Act with awareness as a member of this company. Susan didn't reply for a while, her head down. Then, she looked up and smirked at me. I get it, you're jealous of a young, cute girl like me. But you should stop, it's pathetic. What? You're worried I'll steal the CEO from you, right? Someone as incompetent as you, May, can't help it. What are you talking about? If I really tried, it'd be easy to take the CEO from you. If I can do the job you're doing, I could definitely take him from you. With a confident look, Susan clearly looked down on me. What is this girl talking about? The nerve to suggest she'd take my husband is outrageous. And insulting my work? Unacceptable. Stunned by her audacity, I was momentarily speechless. Susan laughed mockingly. Just kidding. Did you take it seriously? Sorry if I hurt your feelings. Even as a joke, there are things you shouldn't say. Do you remember what I said? Don't repeat this behavior. I tried to keep my emotions in check. In contrast, Susan looked annoyed by my words. Quick to dish out harsh words, but unable to take them, it seemed. Without waiting for her response, I returned to my desk. If this continued, it would disrupt the office atmosphere. If Susan targeted other employees, it would make the workplace unbearable. I needed to figure out how to deal with John and Susan. I held my head. Several months passed since I confronted John and Susan. They no longer openly displayed their closeness at work. However, Susan's words still haunted me. I might just take the CEO from you. It was hard to believe she meant it as a joke. If Susan truly intended to steal him, what would I do? Would I let her take John, or would I fight to keep him? I was tormented by this question daily. One day, after finishing work on time, I went home early to prepare dinner. John often had late meetings or dinners. Tonight, he was supposed to be home late again. Suddenly, I heard the front door open. John had come home. Welcome home. Weren't you supposed to be late today? Oh, I need to talk to you about something. Seeing John fidgeting and avoiding my gaze, I sensed what this conversation would be about. He always acted this way when delivering bad news. What do you want to talk about? Unlike my calm demeanor, John couldn't hide his anxious expression. Finally, as if he had mustered the courage, John raised his voice. Well, I got a 21-year-old part-timer pregnant. Sorry, but we need to divorce. John fell to his knees. The moment I heard those words, my mind went blank. Pregnant. Divorce. John's words spun around in my head. Soon, anger began to well up inside me. How could he do this to me, who had supported him both at home and work? Did I deserve to be treated this way? Hearing John's words, I felt a sudden clarity. I decided to stop enduring for John's sake, for the company's sake. All right, I'll quit my job too. Hearing my words, John looked up at me with wide eyes. He clearly hadn't expected my reaction. What? No, you should keep working. Even now, he wanted me to keep working? How audacious. Ignoring John's words, I continued. The one who got pregnant is Susan, right? Yeah. You figured it out, huh? How could I not? He must have forgotten I had warned him before. He's the type who only remembers what he wants to hear. I knew you had a thing for Susan for a while now. The other employees probably noticed too. Was it that obvious? But if you quit, it'll cause problems. Please, keep working. No way. Susan said she could easily do my job. Let her handle everything. You'll be glad I'm gone, both of you. John's face twisted with frustration. That's irresponsible. It'll cause problems for me. I felt bad for the employees, but I didn't care about inconveniencing John, who cheated on me and still wanted to use me. Hearing my words, John banged the table and yelled. Then you're completely useless to me. We'll get divorced immediately. Fine. I'll prepare the divorce papers. I'll pack and leave within a week. Just wait until then. Within that week, we got divorced and I moved out of the house. Most of the employees were sad to see me go on such short notice, but Susan looked victorious. I wondered how long she would keep up that attitude. I felt bad for the other employees, but I left John's company. After resigning from John's company, I took my accumulated vacation time. While pondering my future, I noticed an email from one of the employees. Even outside of work hours, I maintained good relationships with all the employees except Susan. I had built trust with them by listening to their work troubles and sometimes even their personal problems. Thanks to that, even after I left, employees still reached out to me to share their concerns. This allowed me to stay updated on the current situation at John's company. Then my phone rang. John's name appeared on the screen. What could he want now? Frowning, I answered the call. Hello? What do you want? Thank goodness you answered. I was worried you wouldn't. I'm in trouble and need your help. John's tone sounded like he was trying to butter me up. I could imagine his smug face and felt irritated. What nerve do you have to ask me for help? There's no way I'm helping you. Just hear me out. Susan is completely incompetent at work, and it's causing problems. So what? That's not my problem. What do you mean, not your problem? It should have been obvious. She's never worked a job before, and you dragged her around on outside calls instead of letting her learn office work. There was no way she could take over my duties. Anyone with half a brain could figure that out. John's tone grew more aggressive. So you knew Susan wouldn't be able to replace you? Of course. That young girl has no experience. How could she possibly replace someone who's been working for years? I heard something being slammed from his end of the line. Was he throwing another tantrum? You set me up, didn't you? You're a spiteful woman. Don't blame everything on me. As a CEO, you should have known better. This just shows how little you care about the company. John was speechless, clearly struck by my words. For a CEO to not foresee such an obvious problem, it was truly pathetic. I sighed in exasperation. Basically, you act all high and mighty about your sales skills, but all you've been doing is drinking on the company's dime. What? What are you talking about? Thanks to me, we've secured a lot of business. That's what you think. Sure, your smooth talking might have made clients feel good at the bar, but later, they'd always contact us saying what you said didn't add up and that they couldn't trust you. What? I was the one who followed up and turned those interactions into actual work. In other words, you haven't landed a single job on your own. No one trusts you. Susan isn't going to learn anything useful from someone like you. John usually didn't listen to reason, but this barrage of harsh truths seemed to shock him. The clients who had always told him what he wanted to hear actually didn't trust him at all. He hadn't realized his facade was cracking. I could hear his heavy breathing, but he couldn't seem to form words. You've been mocking me all this time. I'm just stating facts. It's not about mocking you. It was getting tiresome to argue with John. I knew it was pointless to try to reason with him when he was this worked up. Either he'd change his thinking on his own, or he'd rage until he exhausted himself and calmed down. That was the only way the situation would settle. Shut up, shut up, shut up. This is all your fault because you didn't teach Susan how to do the job. Get to the office right now and fix this. We can't get any work done like this. Not a chance. We're divorced, and I no longer work at the company, so stop calling me. It's disgusting. What did you say? John's voice grew louder and more desperate. When he got emotional, he couldn't see reason, one of his worst traits. This mess is all your fault because you tricked me. You're the one who should take responsibility. You owe me. Absolutely not. I have no obligation to help you. Besides, shouldn't you be asking your current employees for help first? Isn't anyone willing to assist you? It was absurd to expect a former employee to fix the company's internal issues. But I had a pretty good idea why things had come to this. Yeah, that's right. Even though I'm the CEO asking for help, no one's willing to do it. It's unthinkable for them to defy the CEO. Did you ask them why? They said it was Susan's fault, but she doesn't know what's going on, and none of the others will explain it to me. As the CEO, he didn't even consider the feelings of his employees. It was clear he only cared about his own perspective. I felt nothing but exasperation. There was no appeal left in a company run by someone like him. You know, she's been insulting everyone except you. Calling them useless, low-paid, telling the women, don't act high and mighty just because you're prettier than me, and so on. She said plenty to me as well. Why would anyone want to help such a heartless person? John probably only knew the sweet, innocent version of Susan. Hearing about her true nature, he was struck silent in disbelief. Suddenly, John asked me a question. Wait a minute, how do you know all this? While you two were out doing whatever you pleased, I was the one managing the entire company. The employees trust me far more than they trust you. Even while I was still at the company, Susan's behavior was atrocious. Employees often came to me with complaints, and I repeatedly warned Susan, but nothing changed. After I left, without anyone to check her behavior, she became even more outrageous. I continued to give advice to employees who reached out to me, but it seemed they never consulted John. Those jerks are disrespecting me. John was visibly irritated by the fact that the employees respected me more than him. There was a loud noise on the other end of the line. He had probably hit a table or something. From my perspective, this was simply the consequence of his own actions. He was now paying the price for prioritizing his desires. You know, your habit of taking your anger out on things and people is probably one reason you're disliked. What? You're saying I'm disliked? Of course. If people liked you, they would help you when you're in trouble. John seemed at a loss for words, hit by the truth. This was probably the first time I had been so direct and confrontational with him. He must have been thrown off by how I kept disrupting his rhythm. Go ahead and get angry all you want, but I don't have time to deal with you anymore. Like I said before, you're nothing to me now. Don't ever contact me again. With that, I hung up without waiting for John's response. Several months after leaving John's company, I was busy with my new job. Despite the busyness, I was content. Then, once again, John called. I had a pretty good idea of what he wanted, so I decided to answer. What do you want this time? You keep calling. Don't you have anything better to do? Shut up. Since you moved, I can't find your house, so I have to call. Anyway, what kind of dirty tricks did you pull? John was obviously furious, but his rant made no sense. You seem really angry, but I don't understand what you're trying to say. Can you explain it clearly? All the employees except Susan quit. You must have done something to harass them. Now we can't get any work done. What are you going to do about it? I figured it was about that. I couldn't help but smile. Actually, I had been working behind the scenes. Without letting on, I decided to reveal the truth. Let me explain. I started my own company. I wanted to use the experience I've gained. When I told everyone, they all wanted to join me. John shouted even louder upon hearing that. So, it is your fault. You can't just poach employees like that. It's not allowed. He was shouting so much that I could hardly understand the latter part of his rant. I had never seen John this furious. In contrast, I remained calm. They all handed in their resignation letters, and you accepted them. They left of their own free will. You have no right to interfere with where they choose to work afterward. But it's because you said you were starting a company. So it's your fault. Don't misunderstand. I merely informed them about my new venture. I never asked them to join me. Therefore, it's not poaching. I kept hitting John with logic. If he didn't want them to leave, he could have refused their resignations or discussed it with them. There were plenty of options. He just wanted to blame everything on me, but his hysterical ranting was only a nuisance.
Stop with the technicalities. This isn't the time for that. The company is in chaos without employees. Please, help me.
His anger subsided, and he started pleading with me. I had no intention of helping, but his audacity was astonishing. Why would I help you? Because you love me, right? What? His words sent chills down my spine. What was he talking about? Even after all this animosity, how could he say such a thing? You haven't blocked my number, so that means you want to see me again, right? How delusional are you? Your self-centered thinking is downright disgusting. I felt a deep, visceral revulsion toward John. I didn't want to talk to him any longer. The sheer absurdity of his thinking made me regret ever marrying him.
Anyway, with just me and this useless young girl, I can't do anything. Do something.
You chose that useless young girl over me. It's your own fault.
Please, just somehow help me.
After countless pleas and rejections, John finally started to realize that I had no intention of helping him. Seriously, you're really not going to help me? Not a chance. You can go down with the ship. If you contact me again, I'll file a restraining order. The word restraining order made John gasp. Since he didn't respond, I ended the call. I hoped this would sever all ties completely. I sighed deeply and stared at my darkened smartphone screen. After that direct call with John, my phone was flooded with calls from him. Normally, you'd think he'd stop contacting me after everything, but his thought process was incomprehensible. John's calls were relentless. I received dozens of calls daily, and even if I ignored them, he'd leave voicemails. There were nearly 100 emails, all filled with insults directed at me. Hoping it might serve as evidence, I didn't block him but continued to ignore the messages. However, the content escalated to threats like "watch out at night," "pay me $2 million and I'll stop," and "ignore me further and I can't guarantee your safety." Feeling threatened, I decided to consult the police and a lawyer. Both the police and the lawyer found the number and content of the calls and emails extremely malicious and agreed to issue a restraining order. After that, John stopped contacting me directly, but he started spreading false information about me and my company on social media. I'm not well versed in social media, but one of my employees found the posts and informed me. What is this? The posts claimed I was bribing clients, embezzling company funds, and other baseless accusations. According to the employee, the accounts posting these claims were throwaway accounts created solely to spread false information. There were multiple throwaway accounts, each posting defamatory content about me and the company. Some posts even included my personal information. The employees who knew more about social media helped by requesting the removal of the defamatory posts. Fortunately, my employees believed I would never do such things, but the problem was the spread of these lies on social media. Some people might be swayed by the false information. After consulting with my lawyer, I was advised that it might not be safe to return home for a while, considering the possibility of my personal information being leaked. So, I decided to stay at a hotel near the company until things cooled down. Whenever I returned to the hotel, a male employee would accompany me to the entrance for added security. I'm pretty sure John is behind the social media attacks. However, I lack solid evidence. If it were just a personal issue between John and me, I could handle it. But this had gone too far, causing real damage. I had to act before things got worse. 1 month later, I was facing John and Susan at the lawyer's office. John, acting all high and mighty, started off. "What do you want? Why'd you call us here? John's company is struggling because of you, May. Are you finally here to apologize?" Even though they were the ones summoned, their attitude was infuriating. It was time to show them the reality. I had prepared for this moment to get my revenge on the two of them. You must know that false information about my company is being spread on social media. Is that so? That's unfortunate. John looked at me with fake concern, but I could see the smirk he was trying to hide. Is that all? What are you trying to say? Do you think we did it? Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. As I said this, the lawyer placed several documents in front of them. What's this? John glanced at the documents but didn't bother to pick them up. I had the source of the false information investigated. Most of it was posted from John's and Susan's phones and computers.
What?
What do you mean? John and Susan, looking pale, frantically flipped through the documents. In today's world, evidence can be easily found if you know where to look. It's a convenient world, isn't it?
Damn it.
What you've done constitutes defamation. And those emails and voicemails you sent me fall under threats and insults, right, counselor? When I asked the lawyer, he nodded and confirmed that the possibility was very high. Susan, half crying, grabbed John's arm tightly. But John, you said, leave it to me, it'll be fine. That's why I helped. That statement was a complete confession. John, who had been confident they wouldn't get caught, turned pale and began to tremble. As bad as it is that you're panicking, there's more. I added as I pushed several more photos in front of them. What is this? There's even more? These were photos proving John's and Susan's affair. I suspected your relationship even before the divorce, so I hired a detective. The evidence just kept coming in. The detective said it was one of the easiest jobs they ever had. The photos were taken with an analog camera, with the date recorded in the lower right corner. This made it impossible for them to claim the photos were taken after the divorce. The two, now beyond pale, stared at the photos scattered on the table in shock.
You two will pay for the damages and compensate for the company's reputational harm and lost revenue. Of course, I'll also be suing you for various offenses, so be prepared.
My words were icy cold. There was no mercy. These two had to face the consequences of their actions.
But I don't have any money. John, you'll pay for me, right?
Susan, her voice trembling with tears, demanded that John pay her share of the damages. Gone was her sweet, drawn-out way of speaking. She no longer had the luxury to act cute.
What? Why should I? Because it was you who came on to me while you were married. This isn't my fault. Don't be ridiculous. Why would I pay for you?
As the two started shouting at each other, I intervened. Quiet down. Anyway, I'm billing both of you.
Whether John pays for you or not isn't my concern. Just make sure the full amount is paid.
Despite my words, John and Susan continued arguing, seemingly ignoring me. Not wanting to stay any longer, I left the rest to the lawyer and walked out. They had made a mockery of me, and now it was time for them to face the consequences. I felt a great sense of relief. Later, the lawyer told me what happened with John and Susan. As expected, John's company went bankrupt. He ended up with massive debts. The damages I demanded were not paid by the deadline. John thought he could escape by moving back to his parents' house, a truly foolish man. Being married to him, I knew their contact information. I sent the invoice to his parents' address and informed them of everything. His parents, deeply apologetic over the phone, promised to make sure he paid the damages. They were decent, sensible people, making it all the more baffling how John turned out to be so irresponsible. Unaware of this, John went home and immediately started lying, saying he was a guarantor for a huge debt I had incurred and that it led to our divorce. When they heard that, his parents were furious. My alimony was paid in full in one lump sum. John eventually found a new job, but his salary is entirely managed by his parents, with most of it going towards repaying his debts. Living at home ensures he has food, shelter, and clothing, a small mercy from his parents. On the other hand, Susan's parents were also enraged. However, as she was still a university student, they couldn't throw her out. Her parents covered the alimony on her behalf. Through my lawyer, Susan's parents also sent their apologies. She is now juggling multiple part-time jobs and repaying her parents while being restricted from going out except at designated times. It might seem like a harsh punishment for a young girl, but I hope it helps her understand the gravity of her actions. As for me, my company is thriving, with sales steadily increasing. Many of John's former clients appreciated my work and said, "If it's May's company, we can trust it," and continued doing business with us. My employees enjoy working in a good environment, and their satisfaction as staff members brings me immense joy as the CEO. For now, I plan to continue dedicating myself to my work.
Please, take care of these two for me,
he begged. I couldn't help but feel utterly exasperated with him. The nerve of him to ask me to even take care of his mistress was just outrageous.
What? Why don't you ask your parents? What are you saying? Should I make my elderly parents take on such a burden? You're heartless.
Oh, your mother-in-law would probably be delighted to help, wouldn't she?
And what position are you in to be saying such things?
Mark, my husband, despite being in a position to ask for help, never lost his arrogant attitude. Watching him, I couldn't help but wonder what I ever saw in him. "Excuse me, coming through." Just then, a new bed was brought in next to us. I glanced over, recognized who it was, and couldn't help but scream.
What? Ivy?
The woman in the bed was someone I knew very well.
I never imagined you were Mark's mistress,
I said glaringly, and she looked away. Now, what am I supposed to do with them?
We're family, so help us out, will you?
While watching the two of them cling to me, begging for help, I found myself deep in thought. My name is Hazel Smith. I'm a 35-year-old housewife raising a lovely 10-year-old son, Sebastian. I have a younger sister, Ivy, who is 6 years younger, and frankly, we've never gotten along. Ivy was irresponsible and ran off with a man as soon as she graduated high school.
I'm sorry, Hazel. I know I shouldn't be causing you stress right now.
My parents lamented over Ivy's choices and made sure it didn't bring mental unstableness on me. They didn't want to worry me as I was pregnant at the time. However, they had no choice but to inform me after Ivy ran off with all the family's savings. That news did indeed cause me great mental distress.
Are you okay, Hazel? You need to prioritize your baby now.
Mark had supported me during that time. He suggested I go back to my parents' place for the birth, which turned out to be a great help. It allowed me to support my parents financially with my savings and safely deliver Sebastian. By the way, I've since been repaid by my parents for that money.
Thank you, Mark. Your suggestion really helped me feel at ease. Don't mention it. I asked you to quit your job for me, so it's the least I could do.
Mark and I used to work at the same company. Mark had been my mentor at work. I admired how diligently he taught me, and his confession led to us dating. When I became pregnant with Sebastian, we decided to marry. He said, "I want my wife to be at home. If you don't mind, would you quit your job?" So, I decided to leave my job for marriage. Despite some regret about leaving work, it allowed me to support my family, which in hindsight, was a good thing. And it was good that Sebastian's birth brightened our home, which had been shadowed by Ivy's actions.
Hey, Mom. Need any help with anything? Could you clean the bathtub? Sure, leave it to me.
Sebastian, now a big boy, is still so sweet and adorable. He plays energetically every day, does his homework when I ask. Sebastian's current obsession with helping around the house often had him asking if there was anything he could do. His excitement and willingness to help always bring a smile to my face.
All done. Thank you. Here's your allowance for helping out. Yay!
He was thrilled, though I wondered if his eagerness to help was partly for the allowance. Regardless, living together as a family like this made me genuinely happy. One day, while I was busy with housework, Mark's mother called. You haven't visited in a while. Come over this weekend and bring Sebastian. I'll prepare a feast.
I'm sorry, we already have plans for this weekend.
Really? Is it something that can't be rescheduled to another weekend? I'll talk it over with Mark, I said, trying to dodge a direct answer. It hadn't even been a month since our last visit.
I know she's not a bad person.
I thought to myself. My in-laws are nice people, and I've never felt mistreated by them. However, Mark's mother adores her only son and her grandson, Sebastian. This made his parents eager to have us at his parents' house. It wasn't that I disliked going there. As a daughter-in-law, I wasn't overworked or mistreated. They treated me more like a guest, not even letting me help in the kitchen. However, being at the in-laws always required being on my toes. Sebastian takes after me, he's really bright.
Good thing he doesn't take after Hazel in that regard.
She was always slow at work, probably struggled with her studies too. Moreover, whenever we visited Mark's parents' house, Mark would start drinking from the daytime. He would then talk to his father in a way that belittled me.
Hazel, you need to try a bit harder.
His father would hear this and, without listening to my side, would chime in. Their remarks always made me uncomfortable. There was another issue I had.
Grandma wants us to visit this weekend.
What do you think, Sebastian?
If it's Dad's mom, I don't really want to go.
The issue was Sebastian's reluctance to visit. At 10 years old, he finds his grandparents' house boring. Their neighborhood is quiet with no parks or natural areas to play in. The backyard could have been a play area, but it's full of my father-in-law's flowers, making it difficult to run around. So, Sebastian brings his homework and PC games, but...
You don't need to do homework, Sebastian, you're smart enough.
We don't understand these games and no fun, let's talk instead. They'd take away his entertainment. And my protests were met with a dismissive sure, from them, and Mark told me, it's okay once in a while. It's understandable, considering how uninteresting those visits were to him.
I'd rather go out with you and Dad than visit Grandma's.
Sebastian would sometimes suggest to Mark, but he would dismiss it, saying, visiting my family is our outing. Even when I try to advocate for Sebastian's wishes, Mark insists, catering to every whim isn't good for his upbringing. Mark claims this, but he's hardly been involved in Sebastian's upbringing. When Sebastian was a baby, Mark used my stay at my parents' house as an excuse to visit only occasionally. He left all the diaper changes and baths to me and my parents. He probably held our child only a handful of times. When I wanted to return home, Mark would insist, it's better for you to stay at your parents' for now. At the time, I thought he was being considerate, but now I see it as his reluctance to participate in parenting. Perhaps his eagerness to take Sebastian to his parents' house stems from not wanting to deal with him himself.
Dad's just not interested in me,
Sebastian said, echoing the sentiment about Mark. Hearing this, I couldn't help but feel troubled. This week, I had planned to take Sebastian to my parents' house. Therefore, I decided to talk to Mark when he returned home, hoping to somehow convince him to decline the visits.
My parents' house should be the priority. But we went there almost every weekend last month, and it's only been a couple of weeks since. We haven't been to my parents' house in nearly a year, even though Sebastian spent time there as a baby.
Mark's parents often insist on our visits because they didn't get to see Sebastian much when he was a baby. We couldn't see him much then, so now we want him here, they would say. To be clear, it's not like they never saw him as a baby. They even stayed at my parents' house for about a week. The in-laws had always been merely guests in our lives. Moreover, my parents saw Sebastian only a couple of times a year since we moved back to our place.
Your parents' house is just boring for me.
Enough.
We've had this visit planned for 6 months. If you prefer your parents' house so much, why don't you go alone?
Fine, I will. He replied easily. I wonder if he really cared about our family. I tried to shake off such thoughts, but they lingered. I started working from home to prepare for situations like this. It wasn't much, but it kept me from overthinking. And it helped me save a little. If I want Mark to be more supportive, I need to try too. I thought, trying to be objective. But my efforts seemed futile. Hi Dad, Mom, long time no see. Long time no see.
Wow, look how much you've grown, Sebastian.
Following our plans, I took Sebastian with me to visit my parents' home. Sebastian was delighted, and so were my parents.
I practiced the game you like, Sebastian. Want to play together? Really? I'd love to. Oh, but I need to do my homework first. How responsible of you. Use the living room, dear. We'll prepare dinner while you finish your homework.
They said, prioritizing Sebastian's needs. The contrast with Mark's parents made me feel uneasy.
What's wrong? You seem troubled.
My mother noticed and said. I took the opportunity to talk to her about everything while Sebastian was with my father.
Indeed, we did monopolize your time with the baby, but that was only for about 2 months after he was born, right? Besides, it's wrong to ignore Sebastian's preferences and opinions. Honestly, I'm worried that continuing this marriage might not be best for Sebastian. I understand. Talk it through with Mark, and remember, you can always come back home. We're here for you.
I was grateful for her understanding. I knew my father would say the same. That was what I was thinking at the time. I'm home. I heard a voice. And as my mother and I exchanged surprised looks, a woman with a little girl entered.
Ivy, is that you? Hey sis, why are you here?
It was Ivy, my sister, whom I hadn't seen in 10 years. The little girl, about Sebastian's age, was hiding behind her.
Ivy? Why are you here, Ivy?
Our parents were visibly shocked by her sudden return. Ivy, while casually placing her bags down, said, I'm tired. Just put these in a room for me, will you? Sebastian, sensing the odd atmosphere, hurried over to me.
Ivy, what have you been doing all this time?
Well, I got married to the guy I eloped. To summarize her story, she got married to the guy she eloped with and had Hannah. And then she had been living as a family of 3 but returned as a single mother after getting divorced.
You're causing trouble again. Don't drag us into your mess.
Dad scolded Ivy as she laughed it off. The children, seeing our father's anger, looked scared.
Dad, calm down. The kids are frightened. Sorry.
Dad said, calming down as he saw the children hiding behind their mothers. Thinking it wasn't good to continue the conversation in front of the children, I asked Sebastian to go to his room for a while.
So, Ivy, what do you plan to do now?
Mom asked once Sebastian was out of the room. I'll stay here. I can't raise Hannah by myself, Ivy declared. Our eyes then turned to little Hannah. She was watching us warily. She resembled her mother in her cute features. We couldn't bear the thought of turning away my anxious niece because of her mother, so we decided to welcome Ivy for the time being.
Thanks. I'll go buy some essentials for living.
Wait a minute. But Ivy had already left, leaving us with a subdued Hannah and an awkward atmosphere.
I'm Sebastian Smith. What's your name? I'm Hannah Johnson. Nice to meet you. I've got some games, let's play.
That's when Sebastian kindly spoke to Hannah, breaking the tension. That helped Hannah to gradually let go of her caution. Following this, Ivy essentially began freeloading at our parents' house. Whenever I called, I'd hear how much she was troubling everyone. Looks like going back to our parents' house isn't an option anymore, I thought, feeling like I had lost my refuge. And now, unable to divorce Mark, I sighed. Sebastian looked up at me, concerned.
Why are you sighing?
One day, when I sighed, Mark asked what was wrong. I told him about Ivy, and all he said was, huh? His indifference to my worries was evident. He wasn't interested in listening seriously.
Why don't you just help your sister out?
Mark said to me, obviously not taking the situation seriously, and I couldn't help but feel annoyed. As I was about to retort, the doorbell rang. Ah, there she is.
Ivy?
I exclaimed as I opened the door, only to find my sister and niece standing there. Apparently, Ivy had gotten our address from our parents and decided to drop by. "I've got something urgent to take care of. Please look after Hannah for me," she said, leaving her daughter with us before I could even respond.
Wait a minute. Is that the infamous sister?
I called out, but she was already gone. And Mark showed up. He watched the whole scene unfold. "Yes, that's her."
I'll have a word with her when she comes to pick up Hannah.
Surprised by his words, I looked at Mark. I decided to let him handle it, though I was a bit surprised by his offer. Even though Ivy abruptly left Hannah with us, it meant we could avoid visiting Mark's parents' house. Sebastian kindly engaged with Hannah, and they started playing together, lightening the mood. I watched them play, wondering why Mark was in such a good mood.
Hey sis. Ivy's here to pick up Hannah. I'll handle it. You stay with Sebastian.
As it became dark outside, my sister arrived. Mark, who had taken care of Hannah, returned in an even better mood after dealing with her arrival.
She's quite understanding. Said it was just an emergency this time and she'll be more careful in the future.
Really? I replied, a bit skeptical, but after that day, Ivy stopped coming to our house. She also seemed to have calmed down at our parents' house. Meanwhile, Mark started working late and going on sudden business trips, saying I've been busy these days. Since Mark had explained to his parents that he was too busy to visit, I didn't have to go there anymore, but I still found it suspicious. It was right around that time.
Next weekend, I have to go on a business trip. It's going to be a bit longer this time.
Oh, really? Take care. Mark was scheduled to go on a business trip for about a week. I said, smiling, though I still had my doubts. Hey, can I come over? I called my parents, learning that Ivy was away. I decided to take Sebastian and visit them. Sebastian immediately invited Hannah to play. It seemed that Hannah had warmed up to Sebastian, as she happily accepted his invitation with a smile.
Welcome back. I'm sorry we couldn't be of more help.
It's okay. I never expected Ivy to return like this.
Hey, you too. Look at the TV.
Dad suddenly called us over to the television. There was news of a plane crash. How terrible. Looks like there are a lot of injured. The victims had been rescued, but it seemed most of them were seriously injured. As my mother and I were expressing our concerns, I received a call from an unknown number on my smartphone. Hello? Yes, Mark Smith is my husband. What? How come? What happened? It's Mark. He was on that plane and has been rushed to the hospital. The call was from the hospital. I left Sebastian with my parents and hurried to the hospital. Amidst the plane crash, which resulted in some fatalities, it appeared that Mark had survived but sustained serious injuries.
I'm Mark Smith's wife.
Mrs. Smith, right this way, please. A nurse guided me to his room. There was Mark, lying in the hospital bed.
Mark. Hey Hazel.
Surprisingly, Mark seemed quite lively. I asked for details. And I found out that he had become paralyzed from the waist down.
The worst part is that it was supposed to be a romantic trip with my lover.
Lover? Yeah, didn't you realize? The business trips were a lie. His words left me frozen in shock. Mark, without any sign of remorse, continued. Both she and I are now paralyzed. You're the only one who can take care of us.
What are you talking about?
My concern for him vanished, replaced by disbelief and fading affection. At the same time, the affection for Mark also disappeared.
Please, take care of both of us.
I was utterly dismayed by what he said. It was absurd to think that he expected me to take care of his mistress as well.
Why don't you ask your parents? What? Make my elderly parents take care of us? You're heartless. Oh, your mother-in-law would probably be happy to do it, right? And what position are you in to say such things?
Despite being in a position to ask for help, Mark maintained his arrogant demeanor. It made me wonder why I ever fell for him. "Excuse me," coming through. A new bed was wheeled in. I looked over and gasped in shock.
What? Ivy?
It was someone I knew all too well. She had apparently been brought to the same room because she was with Mark. The woman there, Mark's mistress who had been brought in alongside him, was none other than Ivy, my own sister. "You were Mark's lover?" I glared at her as she looked away. Mark, unabashed, explained. Ivy and he had exchanged contacts the day she left Hannah with us. And they had been meeting on his supposed overtime and business trips. Hearing this, my anger reached its peak.
"So, you two betrayed us, got into a plane crash, and now you want me to take care of you? You've got some nerve,"
I said, contemplating what to do next. Mark then spoke up reluctantly.
"We're family, so you should help us out, right? Please, big sis,"
Ivy added, both of them pleading with me. As they clung to me, I decided to speak my mind. I decided it was time to speak my mind.
"To you, family seems to be just a convenience. It's not like that. So what do you consider a family, Mark? A father who doesn't actively participate in parenting and forces his son to go places he doesn't want to?"
I countered, and Mark fell silent, finally realizing my anger. My gaze then turned to Ivy.
"You've always wanted what others had, even going as far as stealing boyfriends, making everyone dislike you. And who's always had to clean up your mess? Me and our parents. Is that your idea of family? I Well, at least you two won't be able to cheat anymore. Why don't you just stay together?"
I suggested, both of them stunned by my anger. The nurses, who had been observing us, whispered among themselves.
"I'll explain things to both families. But from now on, you need to figure things out yourselves,"
I said and left the room. I then explained the situation to both families. My parents refused to take Ivy back, calling it her just deserts. "It's enough, we can't deal with more," they said. Mark's parents, pitying their son, decided to take him in after some persuasion from his mother.
"Oh, and I'm filing for divorce, so don't rely on me."
The in-laws pleaded with me to reconsider. It wasn't me who countered him, but Sebastian.
"Grandma and Grandpa are the worst. You don't care about Mom at all."
His words turned Mark's mother pale. While she tried to make excuses, neither Sebastian nor I were interested in hearing more. Further investigation revealed that Mark had been unfaithful for a long time, starting around when I quit my job. The beginning of it all was around the time I left my job due to the marriage. He had suggested I take maternity leave because it made his affairs easier. The reason he wanted me to quit was that his affair partner worked at the same company, and quitting would prevent the affair from being discovered.
Felt quite taken for granted, haven't I?
I mused, taking the divorce papers and investigation results to the hospital. Mark and Ivy, now subdued and shunned. They, looked coldly by the nursing staff who were listening to our conversation, were taken aback when I arrived.
"File this." "Wait! If you divorce me, the in-laws will take care of you,"
I replied, ignoring their pleas and proceeding with the divorce. I then returned home with Sebastian.
Now, the problem is,
left at our family home was Hannah. She was a victim in all this. So I discussed with my parents. Then my parents hired a detective to find Hannah's father. We eventually located Silas, Hannah's father, and arranged a meeting.
"Thank you for contacting me. I've always been concerned about my daughter,"
Silas said. It turns out that he and Ivy had divorced due to her infidelity. He had tried to claim custody, but a mediator believed the child should be with her mother. As a result, Silas lost custody.
"About Ivy."
I explained Ivy's current situation to Silas. He apologized for any inconvenience caused. And to my surprise, he didn't seem like someone who would elope. So, I asked him about it. "Actually, she first approached me using your name," Silas revealed. "What?" I was shocked. Apparently, Ivy had stolen my insurance card to get close to him. Ivy had deceived Silas and made contact with him under false pretenses. Then, after getting pregnant, she demanded they get married.
Though I was deceived, I did love Ivy. But more importantly, I still love my daughter, Hannah. I want to take custody of her. I think it's best if you take care of her.
And then, I decided to entrust Hannah to Silas's care. When Silas and I returned to my parents' house with Hannah, she greeted him with a big smile and hugged him.
We'll be together from now on. Really? I'm so happy.
And they left smiling. With Hannah's safety secured, we decided to move. We thought it best not to stay at my parents' house as Mark and Ivy might come looking for us.
A detective told me that they actually visited the house once.
I had hired a detective to keep an eye on their movements. After being discharged, Mark and Ivy, pushed in wheelchairs by Mark's parents, had tried to visit my parents' house. And they found it empty, so they ended up at Mark's parents' house. Ivy was allowed to stay there because she was Mark's lover. But the elderly couple struggled to provide care, leading to constant arguments.
Well, that's to be expected.
Mark, Ivy, and even Mark's parents were all selfish. They always tried to enforce their will. There was a balance only because there were people who would tolerate it. Like me and my parents. We were no longer there, so conflict was inevitable.
Well, it's no longer my concern.
I had no sympathy for them. However, I needed to ensure everything was finalized legally. So I headed to a lawyer's office. A few days later, Sebastian and I went shopping.
I'm so happy to be shopping with you, Mom.
He said, his excitement evident due to our recent limited outings. As we enjoyed our time, I was suddenly approached by Ivy.
Sis!
When my sister called out to me, I was taken aback and froze, surprised. Seeing her struggling to push a wheelchair, I instinctively grabbed Sebastian's hand, ready to flee.
Where is Hannah? Isn't Hannah with you?
Ivy exclaimed. Given that her first concern was about Hannah, I decided to hear her out. We entered a nearby shop to talk.
At first, I was staying at Mark's place, but
Ivy was in a vulnerable position in that household. Consequently, she felt marginalized and seemed to be bearing the brunt of everyone's frustrations. Amidst this, she started worrying about Hannah. Once she started worrying about her, even though she knew she didn't have the right to see her, Ivy still longed to at least catch a glimpse of her and managed to escape from her in-laws' house. However, without a clear plan, Ivy was aimlessly wandering around the town.
That's when I heard Sebastian's voice.
She continued, explaining how it led her to us. She was anxious about not seeing Hannah and had approached us in her panic.
Hannah is with Silas now.
Ivy froze for a moment. Then she smiled in relief.
If she's with Silas, she'll be fine. Have you thought about what you're going to do now?
There's someone who's willing to help me. This person was a friend she met during her elopement. Her friend worked at a support facility and arranged for Ivy to stay there for a while. Apparently, she had escaped just before someone was scheduled to pick her up the next day. When I called, I got scolded for acting recklessly, but they said they would still come to pick me up. To Ivy, who said this, I presented a document. This is a list of jobs suitable for wheelchair users. What's this?
I know you're going through a tough time, but I will be seeking alimony. I see you're remorseful, so I'll allow installment payments. Find yourself a job. Okay, I'm sorry.
After her friend arrived, Ivy left with the friend. I thought maybe she could still turn her life around.
Sorry for the delay. Let's go shopping,
I said to Sebastian, and we left the shop. As we were leaving, we ran into Mark. His parents were nearby, possibly searching for Ivy, and stumbled upon us instead.
What do you want? Come on, let's get back together. A family should be together, right?
Stop joking.
I have no intention of going back to you.
Unlike my sister, Mark called out to me out of self-preservation. Disappointed by his self-serving attitude, I glared at him.
I expect a lump sum for the alimony and child support. I'm embarrassed that you're my dad.
Faced with our cold attitude, Mark froze. We turned our backs on him and left.
In comparison, Ivy seems better.
I thought as Sebastian and I focused on our shopping.
Hazel! Sebastian!
Mark called out, but his voice no longer reached me. Later, with the help of a lawyer, I filed for alimony against both of them. Ivy began to pay the alimony. Apparently, she was struggling with a new life and an unfamiliar job. She said she received only minimal help from the friend she had mentioned.
I remember, Ivy used to be so sweet and genuine when she was little.
Perhaps being pushed to her limits, she had reverted somewhat to her former self. On the other hand, Mark, who was faced with a lump sum alimony demand, also had a hard time. He eventually had to sell his parents' house and use all of their retirement funds to pay the lump sum alimony I demanded.
Am I too harsh?
After all, he was paralyzed from the waist down.
You don't need to worry about it. Right. You simply claimed your rightful dues.
My parents reassured me, sensing my slight guilt over the situation. Hannah, now living with Silas, seemed to be happy. According to Silas, she was fond of Sebastian, who had been kind to her. This news brought a smile to my face. Sometime later, I received a letter from Silas. It contained excerpts from a letter Ivy had written to him.
I always wanted to be like my big sister. But I realized I could never be her, leading me to self-destructive choices. However, I truly fell in love with you, Silas, and genuinely love Hannah.
The letter ended with, I don't deserve to see Hannah or my sister ever again. It seemed that Ivy would not appear before me again. It was her self-imposed punishment.
Mom, can I go to my friend's house today?
Sure, but make sure you come back before it's late. Even in our new home, Sebastian was making friends and enjoying school. Let's continue to live a peaceful life with our cherished family. With these thoughts in mind, I watched Sebastian energetically run off. My name is Ava Smith. I've been married for 2 years, but we don't have children. My husband said he likes career-oriented women, but I want to dedicate my time to household chores and my family. So, instead of quitting my job after having a child, I decided to prepare in advance and quit my job now. My husband understood this decision. However, the reality is that we don't have a child yet. It's starting to weigh on me. My sister, Sophia, always leaves her child with me. She got pregnant soon after getting married. But she and her husband, who wanted a stay-at-home wife, had conflicting views since she aimed to be a career woman. They divorced soon after their child was born. Since then, she often leaves her child with me, saying she has overtime work or company parties. The other day was the same. She brought over my niece, Luna, in the morning, saying she had a long business trip. It's just for a week. A whole week? That's too much. Why? It's no different from usual. Usually, you come to pick her up at night. I can't help it, I'm working. You're not working, and this is like a rehearsal for when you have your own child. Wait. What if she gets sick? Just take her to the doctor. Bye. Even though I told her to wait, my sister left anyway, and I couldn't help but feel angry. But now that she's gone, it's too late to refuse. So, I decided to ask my husband for help, who was getting ready to go to the office. Can you come home early this week? Sorry. I've got a week-long business trip starting today.
What? You never told me that.
Oh, I forgot to mention it. It was decided yesterday. So, manage by yourself. Alone for a whole week? If you manage now, it'll be easier when we have a child. Counting on you, Mama. And he left. What am I going to do for a week? I'm so anxious. I felt overwhelmed but couldn't do much. Then, my mom called. She invited me to lunch. Normally, I would happily join her, but not today. Mom, help me. Oh dear, what's wrong? I told her about Sophia leaving Luna with me and my husband being away on a business trip. My mom decided to stay with me, saying it would be too hard alone. With her around, I felt more at ease and could enjoy tea and chats while looking after Luna. But then, I realized my husband forgot something important. I tried contacting him, but couldn't reach him. Reluctantly, I called his office. But then, my mom comforted me, but the unease in my heart grew. 4 days later, Sophia contacted me.
Thanks for babysitting. What's my cute daughter Luna up to right now?
Despite saying she was on a business trip, my sister Sophia sounded very cheerful. Not a hint of fatigue in her voice.
I'm thinking of buying some souvenirs, so what would you like? Any preferences?
I couldn't care less about souvenirs. If she has the time for that, she should come home. That's all I can think about. Especially since I'm dealing with problems here. Luna had a fever 2 days ago, you know.
Oh, wonder what it was.
Sophia laughed it off. But I can't come back, I'm on a trip for work. I see. When I called my husband Noah's office, his boss answered. I couldn't believe what I heard. I need to reach my husband because he forgot an important file. He doesn't answer his cell, and he said this file is crucial for his work. Can you tell me where he is on his business trip? However, his boss said there's no business trip scheduled, he's taken a week of paid leave, and I heard it's for a family vacation, sounding apologetic as he informed me. After hanging up and telling my mom, she looked troubled. Then, looking at our family calendar, she asked, are these business trips and overtime Noah's? Yes, they suddenly come up. Weren't you taking care of Luna on these days? She pointed out, and sure enough, there was overtime written with M underneath on the calendar. M for Luna, indicating I was babysitting her. Why does Sophia leave Luna with you on the days of Noah's overtime or business trips? Mom didn't say more, but it was enough to make me think. So, I called Sophia's office, pretending I didn't know she was on a business trip. But I got the same story, a week of paid leave and a family vacation. The word affair started to linger in my mind. They lied to take time off together. Both for a whole week. And no matter how much I tried, I couldn't reach either Sophia or Noah. When Sophia finally called, she sounded too cheerful. Without any guilt or apology for leaving her child. She didn't seem worried about Luna either. Just 3 more days, okay? You can handle the second half. Is that okay with you? Of course, it's work, what can I do? Are you really at work?
Of course. What else would it be? I wouldn't leave Luna for anything but work.
Then I heard a voice in the background. It was familiar. So, what's Luna doing? We've just finished wake. What? After saying that, I hung up the phone. That voice was Noah. Seeing me dazed, my mom asked what happened. But I couldn't find the words. And I just started crying. After a while of crying, Luna came over with her stuffed animal, saying, "Don't cry." What happened? It was Sophia on the phone. I heard Noah's voice in the background. I suspected they might be traveling together, but hearing it for sure just made it all too real and painful.
That would upset anyone. It's natural to feel that way.
Mom, I can't forgive. Oh. Which one?
Both of them. I can't forgive Sophia for leaving her child or Noah for cheating. Absolutely unforgivable.
You definitely can't. Seeing me cry, Luna brought over her toy phone. Auntie, I'll show you pictures, so don't cry. The photos, taken by Luna, were full of flowers and stuffed animals. As I flipped through them, I stopped at one. This one. What about it? My mom leaned in and seemed to freeze in place too. After a moment of silence, she said, "Well then, if that's the case." And smirked mischievously while patting my back. The next day, around noon, the two of them, who weren't supposed to be back yet, returned. They were both dressed in leisure clothes. What happened? I asked as I greeted them. Where's Luna? Sophia exclaimed. She's not here. But why are you back so suddenly?
Because wake is over. What about the funeral?
That's over too.
That's too quick.
She's a child, it's quick, right? So you came back for that?
Of course.
You too?
Obviously.
Strange, I only spoke with my sister. Why would you come back too, Noah, especially when you were on separate business trips? And those clothes don't look work-related. Well, that's... I tried calling you so many times, why didn't you answer? You're one to talk. When I called, you never picked up. Even when I said Luna was sick, you just laughed. Why should I answer your calls? But... Come on, let's go inside. My mom said, peeking out and urging them in. Mom, why are you in black? So, it's true. I thought for sure you wouldn't come back, saying it was work.
I wouldn't stay away at a time like this.
Oh, really? By the way, you two were on a trip together, weren't you? What? Sophia, who had been crying until then, suddenly froze. Why would you say that? Why? Because it wasn't a business trip, it was a vacation, right?
No, that's not it, mother-in-law. It was just a coincidence that we met there.
Oh, really?
Yes, it was just a coincidence.
I see. You forgot this for your work, didn't you? You always take it with you, whether it's a business trip or not. You said you can't work without it. Oh. That's why I tried to contact you, but couldn't reach you. I thought I had to take it to you, even if it meant getting on the plane, so I called your office. Then your boss answered and said you had no business trips planned. Why did you call my office? Well, it was a big deal for my husband. That is. And not only were there no business trips planned, but you also took a week off for a family vacation. I was shocked. Who were you traveling with, I wonder? Oh, Noah, you shouldn't lie like that. And you, Sophia, saying you were on a long business trip was a big lie too, right?
That's not true.
I called your office too. Why? Because I started having doubts about the two of you. And sure enough, you also had a week off for a family vacation. What's that about? Your own mother wasn't invited on your trip. That's because... No, I was really on a business trip. Just because I said I called the office, not everyone knows my schedule. Maybe someone who didn't know answered. But I said your boss answered, right? Are you saying even the bosses at your company don't know their subordinates' schedules? Is there such a company?
We couldn't possibly be traveling together. It was just a coincidence that our trips overlapped.
Oh, a lot of coincidences, huh? Look here. I took down the calendar from the wall and placed it in front of them. Here, business trip and overtime, these are Noah's schedules. And M is for the days Sophia brought Luna to our house. The same, right? Amazing how they align so perfectly. I never noticed before, but once I did, it's just too much to be a coincidence. That's because... Because what? They seemed to be desperately searching for a lie to call a reason, but couldn't find a good one. Finally, Noah defiantly said, "These things happen. I'm working, after all." Then what about this? I said, pulling out Luna's phone. This is see, Luna showed me photos she took herself, and I was just shocked. Look at this, and this, and this, and this. The photos showed Sophia and Noah cozily leaning on each other. There was even a photo of Sophia lying on Noah's lap and another of Noah giving Sophia a back hug. Luna said Noah comes over often, and you two seem really close. She took these pictures of you two. Amazing, isn't it? That was just a coincidence. We were just joking around in those poses. Oh, just joking, huh? I find it hard to believe. If it's not an affair, people don't just pose like that. Noah, you're fine doing this with a woman you don't even like? And Sophia, you let a man you don't like do this to you? Amazing, in a way. You're quite progressive.
Don't talk like that.
Oh, did I say something strange? I didn't think it was strange at all. It sounds like you're suggesting we have some kind of inappropriate relationship. I frequently go to my sister-in-law's house to see the kid. That's all there was to it. If that's true, then why not say it? Normally you'd say you want to see her, right? I thought it would make you sad because you're disappointed every month about not having a kid.
Yes, Noah was thinking about you, Ava, and kept quiet.
Really, Sophia? You thought about me too and kept quiet about Noah visiting?
Yes, of course. Because you were sad about not having a child.
And yet, you left your child for a whole week? Can you believe that? Well, that's because kids are honest, aren't they?
But that doesn't mean Noah and I have the kind of relationship you're suspecting.
Right. I'm sorry for suspecting you like that. Yeah, it's okay. We're sisters, after all. Really? So, you were on a business trip, right, Sophia? Of course, I was. But it looked like you were on vacation. What do you mean? Look, your Instagram is full of pictures saying currently on vacation. That was just me trying to get into the vacation spirit on Instagram. Really? The food looked delicious, and you even enjoyed the night view. It really looked like you were on vacation. Yeah, I arranged it well, right? Yeah, really well. So, who did you go on this trip with? Because I can see a man's arm in the photos. And Sophia, your arm is entwined with his. That's something people in a close relationship do. Oh, maybe someone from work, perhaps a boyfriend? Sophia's eyes were darting around. It was clear she was lying. Oh, really? But look, this watch. It's Noah's, isn't it? What? Noah bought it when he was younger, saying it was a one-of-a-kind piece. It was quite expensive. No. I thought it was unique, but it wasn't. There must be someone else with the same watch. And what about this bruise? Bruise? Look, this one. You said this bruise was incredibly rare and would be easy to identify in case of an emergency. You don't often see a bruise like this. It's impossible for someone else to have the exact same one, right, Noah? No, that must be someone else with the same bruise. Yeah, that's it.
Can you stop joking around? How far will you go to deny it? We're not in that kind of relationship.
I see. So, where did you two meet?
Surely not in the same hotel, right? Of course not. That's impossible.
I see. That's right. Noah's company always uses business hotels for trips. Yeah, of course, it's a business trip. And where did you meet? At this point, both of them responded simultaneously, but their answers were completely different places. They both said they met together, yet their stories were totally inconsistent. I couldn't help but laugh at the misunderstanding, but they quickly corrected themselves. They continued to dig themselves deeper into a hole. Well, never mind. Surely you brought back souvenirs, right? Yes. We did. Let me see them. They presented their souvenirs. I carefully examined the wrapping paper of the souvenirs. I noticed neither had the names of the places they mentioned. Instead, they bore the name of a luxury hotel. And both souvenirs had it. You bought them from the same place, huh? What? No way. But look, both have the logo of a luxury hotel. If you're gonna cheat, you should be more careful with these things.
It's not like that. These are sold everywhere. It's a famous hotel.
Wow, must be a pretty amazing hotel then. I said this and then turned over my husband's bag. He started panicking, but my mom stopped him. Inside the bag was a toothbrush with the hotel's logo. You're so cheap, always bringing these things back. My sister was gripping her bag tightly. My mom grabbed it from her. Despite my sister's protests, Mom turned the bag upside down. And out came a towel with the hotel's logo. So, it's confirmed. You both stayed at the same hotel, right? Well, we had separate rooms. Still saying that? Then let's call the hotel and confirm if you two stayed in the same room. If we find out that, there's no escaping it. Please don't, I beg you, don't do that. Then will you tell the truth? Yes, I'll tell. I was with Sophia. We're in a relationship. Why? How did it come to this? It started with looking after the kids and discussing work, and then it just happened. I felt sorry for you, but I couldn't stop it. But we're not planning to marry or break up our homes. Too late. It's already broken. Knowing this, I can't think of continuing together. Let's divorce.
Wait, I don't want a divorce. Well, I do.
I said and spread out the divorce papers on the table. My name was already written in them. My parents' names were in the approval section, and all that was left was for Noah to sign. Okay, I get it. He hadn't expected it to come to divorce and signed the papers, looking defeated. Just then, the front door opened, and Luna's cheerful voice was heard. I'm back. Holding a bag of snacks, she entered with my father and was surprised to see Sophia and Noah.
Mom.
What, Luna, why are you a ghost? What are you talking about? It's the real Luna. Why? You said the wake and the funeral were over. They are over. What do you mean? She's right here.
Yeah, what's going on? You said the wake was over.
Oh, that. We were playing funeral. It just ended.
What about the funeral? It's quick because she's a kid.
Kids get bored quickly.
Why would you let her play like that?
She saw a funeral scene on a TV drama. Kids imitate anything. Why would you do something so misleading? You just assumed it on your own. But, Mom was wearing black clothes and said as expected. Oh, I didn't say anything. Besides, I always wear black-based clothes every winter. That's why it was just black. What? We hurried back from our trip thinking it was Luna's funeral. So it was a trip after all. Whatever. It's too late now. The divorce is final, it's over. Right, Sophia. I'm cutting ties with you too. Why? You seduced your sister's husband. And while pretending to work, you dumped your child on your sister to go on a trip. That's unforgivable. I don't need a daughter like that. That's too harsh. It's what you deserve. I don't care, as long as Luna is alive. Come on, Luna, let's go home. My sister tried to take Luna with her. But Luna refused, saying she didn't want to go. What's wrong? Don't you want to go home with Mom? No. It's not fun with Mom. Here, I have my aunt, Grandpa, and Grandma. I'm always happy here. But at home, I'm always alone. Even when Mom or Uncle are there. When they are together, they go to the bedroom and tell me not to come in. So, I don't want to go home.
Luna. You can't say that. I hate Mom.
Oh no. Let her stay for a while. She'll get bored eventually. I won't let you come back home, but Luna is our granddaughter. My sister was shocked to be hated by Luna, but she and Noah left our parents' house. However, she kept calling, wanting Luna back. Ava, how's Luna? She's playing. Right now, she's out walking with Dad. Doesn't she want to come back? No, she's happy here. She says it's not lonely like it is with you. If Luna wants to come back, let me know right away. I know. Even though you stole my husband, you're still Luna's mom. But no matter how many times she called, Luna's feelings didn't change. Even when she talked to Luna directly, she said, I hate Mom. Don't call me, I'm happy here. One day, after all this continued, my sister finally snapped.
I married Noah.
Oh, congratulations.
No matter how much you ask for him, it's too late.
Don't worry, I won't ask.
I'm giving Luna to you. She doesn't want to come back to me. I don't care about her anymore. I'll have children with Noah.
You think so?
Yes, he couldn't have kids with you, but if we want, we can easily have them now. There's no problem. We can have as many kids as we want.
Well, good for you. If you can, you should have them.
Of course, I can. Noah said you couldn't have kids. That's why no matter how hard you tried, it was useless. He's excited to have kids with me.
Oh, he said that? I wonder if he knows the truth. What truth? I won't say Noah is sterile, but the likelihood of infertility is stronger on his side. I've been to the doctor and received confirmation that I can have children.
Who told you such a thing?
Noah's mom did. What do you mean? Noah had mumps in middle school. He had a high fever for a long time, so it was thought that having children would be difficult. But she couldn't tell me because she knew I wanted kids and was worried it might lead to divorce. That's unbelievable. When I went to report our divorce, she revealed it all. She even told me to make sure to marry someone who can have children next time. So, it turns out I'm not the one with fertility issues. That's ridiculous. But it's not absolutely impossible for him. It's not like he has zero sperm. Good luck with that. I thought I'd have children with Noah when I married him. That's why I quit my job. Oh, but you said you wanted to be a career woman and didn't quit when you had Luna. That's why you divorced your first husband, right? Why did you quit this time?
Because I divorced last time, I quit this time so I wouldn't have to divorce again.
I see. But Noah likes career women. That's why he was attracted to you. Be careful not to get cheated on.
What did you say?
Exactly that. What do you mean? For 2 years, we couldn't have children, but Noah never blamed me. I thought he was such a kind man. But now I realize, he knew he couldn't have children. That's why he was kind to me. So, it was his fault. You're lucky, he'll still be kind to you even if you can't have kids.
That's not a joke. I want children. This is like fraud.
Well, you chose Noah, and took him from me. Nothing can be done now. No returns. What do you mean?
Oh, you know what?
What do you want to say more?
I have to claim alimony for the divorce.
What? You're talking about alimony when we might not even be able to have children? Not might not, it's almost certain. And you still want to claim alimony? Don't worry. It's not just you, I'll claim from Noah too. It's infidelity during marriage. He'll have to pay.
Why? I can't have children and now alimony? That's too much.
Well, you can't help it, you know. If you're going to be angry at Noah. After all, he's the one who might be infertile. I'll be claiming half of the alimony from him. He might even end up paying all of it, but it's going to make his life tough. His boss knows about the affair trip, so hopefully, he doesn't get fired. Why would that happen? Remember, I called Noah's company during your affair trip. His boss answered. That company is very strict about affairs. He's probably close to getting fired.
That's not a joke.
No joke. But don't worry. There's nothing more to it.
Then give me back my child. My child.
Sorry, but no. Denied. Later, my sister confronted Noah with the truth. He admitted he knew he probably couldn't have children. That's why he preferred a career-oriented woman who might not want kids. But when Luna rejected her parents, and my sister, having quit her job, wanted children, she kept blaming Noah. He was forced to quit his job and became unemployed, which only added to my sister's frustration. How can you have no children and be unemployed? You are nothing to me. He was cursed daily, and it became painful for him to be with his sister. Ava never said such things to me. Whenever he complained, he was met with even more abusive words. However, 6 months later, surprisingly, Sophia became pregnant. "Is it my child?" Noah asked, in disbelief. Sophia laughed and said, as if a man without seed could father a child, revealing it was another man's child. "You can't produce children, so what's wrong with getting it from someone else? Blame yourself for deceiving me. You should work for this child." This led Noah to a life of juggling multiple jobs. Even when he returned home, he faced only a cold atmosphere, which didn't change even after the child was born. Worn out, Noah contacted me, hoping for help, but I refused, saying it was a marital issue. He was reduced to a life of labor without even a small allowance, his only purpose being to work. Still, he endured, spending his days in tears. Meanwhile, I adopted Luna and now live happily with her at my parents' house. Luna is growing up well, and we enjoy every day together.